Alright, today I'm going to be doing the Jaguar 3.0 liter engine. I'm going to do the both the belts and the tensioners. I'm going to be replacing that tensioner right there and that tensioner right there. It's got a couple of wheels that come off of it. Looks like this guy right here, that's going to be down on that side. And this guy is going to be down there. So the first thing that I'm going to do is take off this air intake. These are 7s, or you can just use a slotted screwdriver. Before I get started, I guess I can show you the part numbers. This is the part number for the smaller tensioner. This is the part number for the bigger one. This looks like the supercharger belt right there. And that's my accessory drive belt right there. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this off, well, just loosen it, doesn't have to come off. Then there's one that's down here, right there. It's going to be a 7 as well. Depending on how difficult it is to get everything off, I'll probably take off this as well, these two little short sections. Alright. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and take this off. Open it up. Get there. Just loose enough to get it out. And I'll take this one off. Right. And this guy. And by the way, there's usually a number 10 right here. I guess whoever worked on this last lost it. It's a little bolt that goes all the way through and has a nut, I believe. Yeah, so that's missing. So I'm going to go ahead and just carefully pull these apart. Just be mindful of this one particularly. This piece right here is probably 70 bucks. So what you're gonna have to do is just make sure that you're real careful about removing this. You just pinch it and then just pull it off. But this is not a very strong plastic weld right here, and it's broken on me before on other cars. So what I went ahead and did was just pinch this and pull it off just real carefully, and then I just took off the ends and just shoved them in there. It is a little bit of a tight fit, but it's a lot easier to get it off this side first, then go in and get it on the inner pieces right here. So, and I just slid it off of the throttle body. Let me get my flashlight out of the way. Sorry, that was a little difficult to do with one hand. And be mindful of like all these little plastic hoses. They're really easy to break, and you will not be fixing them. It's pretty difficult, especially because those are coolant hoses, it looks like, and you'll have 15 pounds of PSI, 15 PSI in those lines. When the car's running. So all these little tiny little variants of the engine, also like this being plugged off, just be mindful of that. Don't really need to take off too much more. We're just going to go ahead and release the tension from this belt down here. I have a tool for that. Now, not everybody's going to have one of these, but it really makes things a lot easier. It's basically a long ratchet that you can reverse the sides. This, I believe, is a 17. No, it's maybe smaller than that. It might be, looks like it might be a 14. So what I'm going to do is put the, I think this is what, 3/4 inch? Yeah, 3/4 inch on there. Yep, That'll fit in that. So I'm going to do that and just pop that in, release the tension. Let's see if I'm strong enough to do this with one hand. Yeah. There we go, almost. Oh, these ones are really stuck on there. All right, let me try to do this. All right, so the trick to doing this is getting it off of this pulley right here first, like that, and then you should have plenty of slack to get this top one off. All right, so now that I got that one off, I'm gonna go ahead and take my wrench out, or just lose it down there. All right, so pull the belt out like that. Now I'm gonna do the same thing. I think I can see it, so let me grab that wrench. All right, grabbed it out of there. And now I'm gonna do the same thing. Be mindful of this, looks like what, thermostat? Part of the thermostat housing right there. So I'm gonna go ahead and take off my accessory belt if I can get this in there. With this belt, you're gonna be pulling this way towards the driver's side to get the tension off. As you can see, I pulled it off the water pump first. All right, and so the reason that I went and took the belt off in the rear, even though I have to still take this tensioner out, it's because it's gonna make it a whole lot easier for me once I do have this tensioner off. All right, to get this tensioner off, you're gonna be putting a number 13 here, a number 13 there, and a number 13 right in there. What I'm doing is I'm going to go and just break these loose first, and then I'm going to use my electric driver to get it off. So a lot of people will go and have a bad habit of using their electric ratchet as a ratchet. That's not what it's designed for. You shouldn't be trying to break nuts free with this thing. It'll reduce the longevity of your tool. All right, we got one down. All right, two down. Let me remove those so if it eventually drops, I will not be losing all of them. And it looks like we have a short one that came out the top, a long one on this bottom right, and probably another long one. Nope, I was wrong. It was a little shorter one. So the two that are over here are going to be the short ones, and the long one's going to go in here. So this thing should come off. Might be held on with a little bit of heat, so I'm going to go and pry it off. I'm sorry, I miscounted. There's actually going to be 4 bolts, so it's going to be like that, where you got the one other bolt by itself down there in the corner. It's also going to be a number 13, so I'm going to break that loose. So I went ahead and put an extension on, and I just got in front of these hoses and just broke it loose. All right, got that out. It was another little short bolt. Where's my flashlight? All right. So let's see what we got down here. I just want to check and see if I'm gonna need to replace the gasket on this vacuum pump, or if it's the crank seal. It doesn't look like it's actually coming from the crank seal, so they may have been right when they said they had found it down there as being the vacuum pump right here. I'll be doing that next. I'll be doing that tomorrow. And just like before, this one is also a number 13, so I'm going to go ahead and break that. Right. I really hate this wrench. I thought, oh, I'll love this thing. Nope. Because it always unlocks and I always lose the fucking tension because this little thing always gets unlocked. So it just goes at any angle and flops around. Alright, so I took a long bolt out of that. Get this tensioner out of there. Alright. And get this old belt out of there. That's going to be fun trying to get that back in. Alright. So once this tablet loads up, I'm going to put the belt routing up there on the TV. Alright, so that is the routing for this belt. You can see right there what it looks like. Alright, so I went ahead and put the bigger tensioner in first. You can see I went over that right there, and that's going to be sitting on top of that water pump. You can see goes under the alternator down there, and then you've got it going into the tensioner, goes up into the tensioner across, and then it's going to go back down under the other tensioner, and it's go back over the crank and then to the compressor, up to another idler pulley, and then back over to the water pump, and there you go. Alright, so I did manage to get that in. You can see how I routed it in. Making sure that it's all the teeth are secured into their little grooves. Alright, everything looks good in there. And the way that I did it was like as we took it off before, where I put everything on and just left this part right here down here, and that gave me enough slack to go and put the ratchet on there and pull it this way like that, and then put the loop over that way. And again, that is the routing for the accessory. Now here is the supercharger belt. Go ahead and get that belt in. Alright, sorry, I dropped the little insert that goes into the tensioner. Alright, like I said, I went ahead and pulled this guy that way, and then use the slack to go and just kind of push it over like that. Alright, so I went ahead and just kind of angled this down and got that part in. So you can hear I'm a little out of breath. This thing was fighting me. Just kind of make sure you're watching it so it's not getting bent at this little plastic lip. It probably won't, but it'll still be tough to get on, so you just gotta really just kind of work it in there. And then you'll go ahead and tighten everything back up. Alright, so I went ahead and tightened these all up. Just kind of make sure that they're in that little groove in there. Alright, and then I tighten this one up back here. That one's good. Now I just got to clip this back in. Alright. Alright, when you get this in, it should make two little clicks probably. You're just going to use both hands and just gently push from in here a little bit. Just get it closer and grab it here. And it should just walk itself over that little lip. Alright, so if you pay attention to that little last part where I had the engine running, you'll notice that this thing was staying perfectly still. The reason that I went ahead and replaced these, because I had a feeling that was the problem, is that one was bouncing a little bit, just kind of a little bit of movement. And I was noticing that when we went and bought the vehicle, it had we were driving on the highway and got probably 3/4 of the way there, and all of a sudden the vehicle didn't want to like go any faster than 70 miles per hour. It would just drop. We would be cruising at hypothetically 100 so miles an hour, and all of a sudden it would just cut out. Like the RPMs would go up, I could shift gears, and I luckily had my code reader with me, my scanner, and no codes or anything like that. And so what that made me think was, what was happening is somehow we were having some belt slip issues. Now it's odd that it was on the drive side, because it has nothing to do with the supercharger, but somehow it was probably causing it to not sync up correctly and throw it into a temporary like safe mode or something. But without throwing any kind of codes, because everything was functioning, you could hear the supercharger whining, but for some reason it was throwing it into some kind of safety mode or limp mode, and then just kind of get down lower in the RPMs or stop and slow down and turn off the car, and then all of a sudden we'd have a boost again. And I knew that it wasn't going to be the supercharger also, like the pulley on there, because A, when they go bad they make a ticking sound, and B, the belt would have ripped. If it seized up, it would have just ripped up this belt. So I knew it hadn't had something to do with that. So that's, if you're running into an issue where you're driving one of these 3.0 supercharged Jaguar engines, the AJs, that could be your problem. I definitely noticed, like I said, that thing was sitting really, really nice and tight, and this one was just kind of bouncing a little bit. So that's when I went ahead and changed those out. And I noticed also too, it wouldn't happen if I went like 85 or less than that, and in town it had no effect on it at all. But guarantee you now that it's both of them been replaced, that I won't have any kind of belt slip or anything like that. When I go to upgrade the pulley for the supercharger and this little crank pulley, harmonic balance or whatever the hell you want to call it, they upgrade the grip on this right here, and on top of that, when you go and upgrade, get the stage 3 or whatever you want to call it, tune and the belts and the idle or pulleys, you're not going to want any kind of belt slip. That's a real pain in the ass. So I hope that helps somebody. I'm going to be doing an oil change next. You'll need a 90 millimeter oil filter socket, and then we're also going to go and, instead of taking the to do the vacuum pump that I'm going to do, I have to go and take the oil out. So I'm going to pull out all the oil through here, and I still have to take off the little bottom underskirt to go and do my vacuum pump. But if you're just doing a oil change, all you got to do is just pop this open, use that guy right there, suction it out, and then a 90 millimeter oil filter socket for this. So I'll be doing that probably tomorrow. I'll show you guys how to do that. And I made a review of a C8 and C8 Stingray and a Tesla Y that I was driving earlier. Someone traded in, so I had to go and do some work on them. Not really hyped about those vehicles, I'll tell you, but you'll see tomorrow. Have a good one.